Hey everybody, welcome to Pale in Comparison, a proud member of the Doof Network. In this podcast, my sister uses her knowledge of the Otherverse to take a look at Pact, Wildbow's most reflective work, and I try to not give away any spoilers. I'm Jenny, and Malia convinced me to read Worm.
I'm Malia, and Jenny convinced me to read everything else. This episode, we are covering Gathered Pages 10. Before we get into that, however, I'd like to issue a spoiler warning. This podcast is filled with pale spoilers. If you don't know how much of a dickbag Mr. Samaniego can be and don't want us to tell you, stop now, read Pale, and come back to this podcast. As for Pact, there'll be full spoilers to the chapters we are covering.
You know, I usually don't read what you put as the Pale spoiler thing, and I didn't this time. It's pretty fucking funny.
I thought it was topical.
Yeah, it kind of works. All right, guys, just to let you know, the fan art contest deadline is up, so it is time to get out there and vote. Woo! At least if you're a patron. If you're not a Patreon member,
it's the perfect time.
It's the perfect time. You can vote, give us your opinion, help win someone some money.
Totally. You'll also get access to all those bonus episodes and things that you hear about.
Yes.
If you didn't get to listen to us record Pate the Fool live, then you can listen to it.
I mean, not to pat ourselves on the back, but
$10
it was pretty good.
More. It was fun. It was very fun.
It was pretty fun. I feel like that's that's a pretty good one.
Yeah. So voting is live and will be live for a few weeks, a little bit longer than normal because I will be on a cruise and it seems weird to have the voting stop and not be able to post anything about it. So yeah.
So vote your hearts out, you know? You can take that time, really think on it, and put that vote in.
Yes.
And it'll be great.
Yes. And thanks to everyone who submitted pieces. They're really cool, and I am excited to see who wins, because I don't know.
It's basically, I love doing fan art contests, because even if we don't get a ton of submissions, it's basically peer pressuring people to create fan art, which is great, because I want lots of fan art to look at. It's pretty
fun.
So you guys may not have realized this. I mean, or maybe you have because of the number on the podcast thing, but it's our 50th episode.
Woo!
Wow!
We did it.
We did it. We've recorded 50 episodes of the show. And which is
just this show, not including bonus episodes.
Yes.
Not including our Mom Critiques Wildbow.
Yes. So that's pretty exciting. And just to stay true to form, we've not really prepped anything for it, but that's okay because, we were considering taking shots, just for funsies, I'm on call this weekend, so I can't do that. And Malia has the bar to take. So we're well, that's okay. So I'm going to give, a mediocre fact. Woo! Woo! It's all right. You guys will still get a fun fact at the end, but this is the golden anniversary. You guys get a bonus fun fact just because it's the 50th gold anniversary. And I mean, there may be a little gold mine. So sorry. Of gold fun facts that I just haven't been able to find yet, but there's not a lot of super fun ones.
She spent about 5 minutes just looking at golden retriever facts.
Yeah.
So
which, you know what? Just to let if you guys ever look up any golden retriever facts, you're going to be a little disappointed just because a lot of these fact, article writers deem it important to write things like golden retrievers need a lot of exercise. Golden retrievers are very friendly. Golden retrievers like to eat a lot, so it's wow, these are great. I couldn't have figured any of this out by just staring at a freaking dog video for 30 seconds. Yeah, so that's the kind of thing that I've been looking at for the past 5 minutes to try to find something. shockingly and disappointingly, it is not a golden retriever fact. But all right, mediocre drum roll. All right, thank you for that. The average human body contains 0.2 milligrams of gold. Ta-da! You're
Which makes
so
me feel
welcome.
special. Yeah.
I mean, I guess technically you shouldn't feel that special since it's like every human body.
Well, maybe I have more than average.
Oh, okay. That's true. And in fact, you might, because I think that there are some treatments, like medical treatments, that are done with gold. The way I said that made it seem like you were getting medical treatments with gold, which isn't the fact. So you might actually have less than some other people do. But bummer. That's all right. A lot of like metals, like silver and copper, have like antibacterial properties, so they use them in certain things. Like silver's used in a lot of like wound care treatments. Gold, I'd have to Google, but they don't use it in wound care treatments. I don't think it's a thing with that. But I've done enough Googling beforehand, and I didn't think to Google that before. And so that's fine. You guys can look it up, or maybe I'll deem it interesting enough to make another fact about it later. But I know. Ooh. So our chapter summary, it's basically an Andy interlude. We get to look at Andy notes and stuff, which I don't know if you remember, Malia, but one of your last comments when I was asking who you'd want an interlude on is you brought up Andy like at the last minute, which was great. So keeping that in mind, what did you think of this chapter, Malia?
It was really interesting. I didn't realize that I missed the gathered pages format. Like it's really fun seeing the letters back and forth and the diary entries. So that was a fun structure. It was a neat way to get inside Andy's head and just kind of shake things up. Yeah, and now I'm left like really wanting an Eva interlude. It's interesting. But yeah, it was good and then ominous and upsetting.
What do you think Eva writes in her video diaries? I guess she, because Andy was saying they're more like, are they video or recorded? They're some kind of recorded media, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I bet she just like talks about how annoying her brother is and how he doesn't let her do anything and how she wants to kill people. I don't know.
Yeah,
but yeah.
And you think that's the interlude that we all need so far?
I mean, it's not like the interlude we all need, but I'm assuming this is the only any interlude we're gonna get, and I'd like to know more about them and their family, and their past. And he speculates a lot on Eva and whether or not she's like really fucked up or just like kind of fucked up, and I'm curious.
It's fair. I mean, yeah, like I think anyone looking at her could just be like, she's fucked up for sure. But I guess it's a different like metric when you're a witch hunter, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, let's get into it. We look at Andy's notes, journal entries, which kind of are combined with notes, and then letters and correspondence. And
yeah, I'm what?
I don't know, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, one of the big things that I took away from this chapter was just like more information about witch hunters. I mean, we've learned a decentish amount about them in Pale. We've seen Mr. Samaniego in person. But we haven't seen the more mundane witch hunter lifestyle. And so it was cool seeing like, oh, this is how they network and communicate, and this is like why it makes sense that there's this chapter at all, because of all the notes that are important, and just like epistolary stuff is really fun. I love reading letters in fiction. But yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, I like that too. Something about reading letters. It just feels like you're getting kind of a secret look into something to me. And it is pretty fun.
And I bet it's a fun writing exercise because you need to convey enough to your reader so that they can understand what's going on without it being like weird that someone would include that in a letter. So like the way that Wild Bow is teaching us things about, you know, these people and their relationship with each other, and the way witch hunters work and all that stuff, without making it like weird that they're discussing certain things. I don't know. It's a fun. It
Yeah,
feels
it's kind
like
of a fun thing.
yeah, like it feels like these are like real people, and we're kind of stumbling across things and piecing things together. Yeah.
No, for sure. Yeah, so I mean, like, I guess like how like 'cause we obviously, yeah, we're seeing Mr. Samaniego talking to Andy, like in correspondence here. Did did it seem like I don't know, did he match up with your perception in Pale so far?
Yeah, I don't know if he like if I would have viewed him as negatively, I guess, as I do
Mhm.
if I hadn't read Pale, but I one thing that was funny was Andy says, you know, my best to the kids, which is, you know, like oh you know, he knows about they know about each other's families and stuff, so there's that personalish connection there or whatever. But that made me think of Avery just sort of being like, "Oh, I have a family," and Samaniego being like, "You should never mention a family around anyone ever." Like, how fucking rude. So that made me laugh. And like, you know, he's like, yeah, his ex, and it's like, you know, he cares about his kids. He's worried about them, but they're also a big inconvenience. And
Mhm.
make what seems to be the central focus of his life, his job, like more complicated and harder.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, he seems like an important person, someone who can connect things and people, someone who, yeah, provides resources, but has a horrible family life.
Yeah. Okay.
um, and can be kind of pushy.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I think that having met him in Pale made this a lot more fun. Um, because I don't think I would have thought as much about Samaniego. Like it would have been like, oh,
Mhm.
he's the person who's just telling me information about what Andy's doing, where as opposed to like being his own fully fleshed out, yeah,
Yeah.
character.
No, for sure. Yeah. It's fun to see as we read along how, even though obviously like you can read both books completely separately, it
Mhm.
is fun that there's a little bit of like subtle connections, you know, here and there with certain things.
Yeah, Samaniego mentions like, oh, we have a new recruit around your age, and I was like, is it Raph? Like in my mind, I'm just like, yep, that's Raph. And I went and looked through Pale to see if I could figure out who Mac was. Mac is like the person who saved Andy and Eva and killed their parents,
Mm. Mhm.
which was fine apparently, and like brought them into witch hunter life. And because I was thinking like, oh, what if it was that one like cool old guy who could smell or whatever, but I think that guy's name was Clint, and I didn't see
Yeah.
any references to Mac, which was kind of a bummer. I was hoping to learn more about him, but
Mhm.
it still was fun having the any semblance of that sort of connection, because then they mention some different witch hunter groups, and like they mentioned Montreal, and I was like, I know about Montreal, and yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, it's I really liked looking and getting a better, I guess, view of all that stuff.
Mhm.
It's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah. Another thing that sort of runs throughout this chapter is like the generational witch hunter divide. Um,
Mhm.
like I mean, Andy's good at putting cameras and radios because he, you know, maybe has like smaller hands or is just better at the detail work. Like Samaniego specifically is like, I'm good at weapons, but
Yeah.
can't do anything else. Whereas Andy is very like, you know, methodical and whatever. But different things come up about computers, and like Andy will be like, hey, can you have someone, you know, do this computer thing for me? And all the older people are like, what the fuck? No. Like maybe we'll ask the new recruit because like, why are you making us do this? Like and the insistence, or like the kind of like, oh, write things down on paper, which then leads to all of the notes and journal entries about Blake disappearing, which was sort of funny. I mean, presumably they would have been like corrupted files or something if he had done it electronically, but
Yeah, probably.
that was kind of an interesting thread of like, Creevy or whoever he was later was like, hey, stop having people fucking bother me. Like, here's some books or something. Like, I don't know. It was fun.
Yeah, that was kind of fun. Let me see. So, the first one is obviously that like we have a couple letters to Samaniego. And I guess like how did you feel about going back and forth from like letters to like notes and journal entries? Did it feel like pretty smooth, or what were your favorite ones to read?
Yeah, I think it felt good. I didn't have a hard time following, when it was a letter and when it wasn't. Just the Mr. Samaniego or whatever, like at the beginning, helped put you in the mindset of what was happening. I'm trying to remember. I mean, the like where we get the scene with Mags and Molly was great. But I thought Samaniego's response about how he doesn't want to give them a rocket launcher because like Andy's not quite equipped for it and Eva's crazy. It was fun.
Yeah. It's like, oh, like as nuts as these witch hunters are, like even that's a little bit too much.
Right. Like I don't know. I'm trying to decide what aspect to talk about, but let's talk about Eva because I've sort of mentioned it. Like, yeah, so Samaniego doesn't trust her because she's like too unhinged and unpredictable or something.
Yeah.
But then, well, yeah, so then Andy talks about how they were sort of like raised in different spots. Sometimes like they had different witch hunter trainings and were like in different locations, and like he's like something happened, or he thinks maybe something really bad happened to Eva that she's never really told him about.
Yeah.
At one point he says, I'm increasingly worried that something went wrong, that she ran into something and it got to her. And maybe that's something that Wildbow is just leaving for himself in case he needs something like that later and maybe never quite comes back to it. But the amount of like, yeah, Eva's scary. Yeah, even the witch hunters know it. It seems like something went wrong. And then the farther along the chapter goes, it's like, we're getting along and she's agreeing with me. And like, this is all, and like that makes me worried about Andy.
Yeah.
And I just feel like there's something else there that would be fun to learn. But yeah. It was interesting when this started out because I couldn't tell when these first letters were. I think that they were closer to the present. But it seems like these first letters are maybe even before Blake comes to town. It's an interesting ramping of tension again, seeing what Jacob's Bell is like and how it's been changing from the perspective of someone who's been living there, who can see stuff about the practice and who is concerned, I guess.
Yeah.
Because they start out, or like at one point he talks about how they had two different things they tried to get and they failed with one, but they got it with the other. And they talk about seeing a frog spirit and then killing it. And I was like, that's rude. Like, it's probably dangerous to have little kids like fall into the magic puddle of the abyss or whatever the fuck. But it's just a frog spirit. Like, please leave it alone. And then, but then it's like, oh, we had 8 like things.
Sorry, just like
it's a little froggy.
Okay, it's a froggy, but you just said it's probably kind of dangerous, I guess, for kids to go in and maybe accidentally fall into an endless puddle and die. But it's a froggy.
It's a froggy. It deserves to live.
Malia.
It's like, it's the manifestation of the idea of frog.
I'm not saying it should be murdered, but like, but you're just like, oh, leave it alone. Little kids might fall to the endless depths into like wherever the hell they're going, these innocent little kids, but it's their fault for having the audacity to splash in a puddle.
You should maybe move it or something, but they just like murdered it. And it's a little froggy.
Malia.
It's not just a frog, which would be upsetting. It's like the idea of frog. like the frog the ideas of Frog have coalesced into this being who, for some reason, isn't hibernating and is out. You know, he's so froggy.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I feel like you're focused more on the name Froggy than potential innocent deaths.
Yeah, I know. I don't want those.
Because, I mean, unfortunately, like, I don't know, because they were called by the council, right? Or junior council. And so, obviously, the council know what the witch hunters are going to do, right? So, if they deem it something that's, like, needs to be killed or like that, they're probably going to call the witch hunters to it. So, whose fault is it, you know?
Yeah, no, it's, like, not...
You know what I mean, though?
Yeah, sure, no, yeah, it's the practitioner's fault, but it's me. They should have just... I don't know. Makes me sad. Like, I was kind of happy that the little gnome or whatever the fuck with the clipboard got away. I was like, that sounds like trouble and is very fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, Andy at one point speculates on the nature of others and practitioners, and like, are others practitioners? Are practitioners others? I mean, he says the word monsters, but like, you know, like...
Yeah, but we know what that means.
Yeah. But then he also sort of talks about like, what if reality is being gouged when practitioners practice? That this is like a fallout sort of a thing of the result of their fucking with whatever, and that leads to others like gathering places. That was sort of an interesting thought, especially thinking of like the idea of first choir demons and like how much of the universe have they destroyed already. Like, it kind of reminded me of that. And I'm not sure what we're doing with that idea necessarily in this story, but it does seem to be one of the things that comes up. Yeah, I'm sorry, Jen. I'm like really jumping around in my notes, but
yes, I'm having a hard time keeping up exactly. But that's okay. You lead the way, and I'm going to follow.
I wanted to talk about the different witch hunter groups.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Oh, you're not kidding. Where the hell are you? Okay, yeah, I found it.
It's up there. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
So it seems like there's the lighthouse, which we don't hear that term in this chapter, but we know Samaniego's group is called the Lighthouse. And they have 8 witch hunters. And then there's Andy and Ava, who seem to be like their own thing, which I don't really get. And then there's the quote unquote Magog nuts, which, like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
And then there's Montreal. And I think it's wild that like they know about Montreal, but then there's another group that's like more nuts than Montreal. I kind of want to... Is Magog a place? Like, what is Magog?
Magog. Well, interestingly, first thing that comes up is Gog and Magog. It's in the Bible and the Quran. I can't speak. So it says, in Ezekiel 38, Gog is an individual and Magog is his land. And in Genesis 10, Magog is a man. And then goes all the way to Revelation. So what is this saying here? Magog may have been a code for Babylon, which is cool. In Revelation, Gog and Magog are the hostile nations of the world. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff, basically. About Magog. I feel like a bad Catholic right now. I'm like, Magog is not ringing a bell.
Yeah, no, I've like never heard of this. Like, although I also Googled like Magog, Canada, and it appears to be a place in Quebec, which might be...
That probably is actually what this is referring to.
But I bet like that there is some sort of relationship to the biblical stuff too. Because like, what the fuck is Magog? I mean, there seems to be lakes nearby.
So in this like Britannica, it says in Revelation to John, the names Gog and Magog are applied to the evil forces that will join with Satan at the great struggle at the end of time. He will go forth and deceive like the nations of the world, Gog and Magog, gathering them together in great numbers to attack the saints and Jerusalem. And then God will send fire from heaven to destroy them. So
Well, I mean,
Magog is a weird name. I mean, so is
that's
Gog.
that's yeah.
I
like
wish,
that it's Gog and Magog
yeah, like
together.
yeah,
It has a good meter.
Gog, and then instead of thinking of like a totally different thing, I'll do Magog.
There might be.
I guess you also could kind of be like it's
linguistic.
maybe like a parallel, like man, and then we're gonna say woman as well. I don't know. No, not agreeing with that one.
I mean, maybe.
I mean, that's kind of a stretch. I'm kind of just thinking since that man and woman, like,
they both
are
have the same,
in Genesis, and then Gog and Magog. if I mean, if they're just in Revelation, that's like at the end. I don't know what that means.
It's like
Probably
there are two genders, Gog and Magog. Like
is Magog the what does it mean, Malia? What does it mean? I don't know.
I don't know.
Magog is the I don't know. It's probably just a place in Canada.
Yeah. It's in Quebec.
Quebec.
Most people speak French.
Okay. So it's like a little region. It's a little place in Quebec where people speak French.
Yeah, there's 25,000 people as of 2011. So that's not that helpful, but
no. I don't know. Do you think they're like religious nuts? Because they're like Magog nuts. Nuts. Do you think they're like
the nuts is that just what Samaniego calls them and he's being rude? Or
I think so.
Are they like we are the Magog nuts?
Oh, are you asking if there's like a thing called Magog nuts? The answer is no.
Okay.
Although you can buy nuts in Magog. So maybe that's the key. They're like, the guys who own the Magog Nuts store.
Oh, it's a front.
It's a front. But then this devious thing says bolts and nuts. So maybe it's not even like the edible nuts. Maybe it's just like the hardware type of nuts.
See, that's a better front because they can probably manufacture some like weapons and shit and pretend they're just.
What if they do nuts and nuts? Like Magog nuts and nuts. They're like, we're going to sell you hardware, but you can have a snack.
I wonder if they would do some sort of like maple nuts stuff. Like mom, we were in like Boston or something, and she was like really obsessed with finding these like special candied nuts or whatever. Do you remember that?
Like candied, those like candied pecans
or something. But they were like hot from like a cart on the street. Yeah. Maybe
those
they have that, but
delicious.
Like maple. They're really good.
Like candied pecans and stuff. And those are fucking good. Yeah, they might have like those candied nuts, spiced nuts, salted nuts, plain nuts, and metallic nuts.
Metallic nuts.
And then they'd be like, welcome to Nuts and Nuts. Go bonkers, because I don't know, like you could say go nuts, but that's too obvious, right? So
wait, what if it's
oh man, new slogan.
No, what if it's they name themselves Nuts and Manuts?
Nuts and Manuts?
Like Gog and
Magog. That sounds too much like my nuts.
Manuts.
What if it's just like welcome to Manuts, or welcome to Magog Manuts. Go nuts.
Magog these nuts.
Oh no. All right, we've reached it. Guys. Gog on my nuts.
No.
No.
I don't know what that means, but it's uncomfortable.
Yes, it is. All of that is uncomfortable. That's why I'm like, no, my nuts. In my opinion. Magog and my nuts. Okay. Well, I mean, that is a good front because I don't think anyone would take them seriously as witch hunters if they owned a store called Magog and Manuts. Or like or Manuts Magog. I don't know. I'm getting confused on which order makes more sense now.
I don't know.
Because it'd be like the town first, so Magog Manuts, right? So
Magog Manuts.
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 Yeah.
Yeah. That
Try
almost
a
sounds like it's
handful.
just a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Man.
But yeah, it says a lot that the Montreal people are just like, oh, Montreal, and Manuts are like those fucking freaks. Although maybe it's not because they're like really like dangerous and awful. Maybe it's just that they have like strange business practices.
Yeah, they're like nuts are freakishly delicious. They're like, man, I don't know how those Manuts do it. They got a secret recipe.
Yeah, they need the like C4 or whatever to like really help generate the
enough heat
for their candy nuts.
Yeah, witch hunting's a side business, actually. They're really into their nuts, and they're just, they're like, okay, I guess we'll help you guys with like defeating evil and all that stuff, but only if like you help us get the right tools and things.
They're like, oh, why did you buy up all the thing? We have to go fight these demons. And they're like, excuse you, what's more important?
Excuse you, I need holy nuts.
Demons or our profit margins?
Yeah. Yeah. Demons or our profit margins. So good.
Gog and Magog.
I mean, it's fair, you gotta make a living somehow. And just like murdering others isn't gonna help with that. You gotta come up with a business. Maybe that's where maybe that's where they get the money to fund a lot of the witch hunter stuff, and that's why the witch hunters are like, fine, we'll deal with these stinking Manuts because at least they're funding. I
feel like the more we say it, the more it sounds like it's some sort of like a macadamia nut or whatever, or like a Brazil nut. Like it's a nut.
It's just like a type of nut. Yeah, it's a Magog nut. I know. I would try a Magog nut.
Maybe acorns should be renamed to Magog nuts. Although I don't know if acorns are edible. Well, it's like, what are Canadian nuts?
Well, it's just like how they have corn nuts, and corn nuts aren't nuts, right? They're just like, it's like corn, like fried, I don't know, some kind of very processed corn snack that tastes delicious.
Yeah.
So maybe we're thinking about this all wrong, Malia. Maybe instead of like different types of spice nuts, with some like hardware, maybe it's like corn nuts, but like the Canadian version.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
That'd be fun. All right. We probably should move on.
Yeah. I kind of want to wait to talk about the rocket launcher at the end. So I'm looking around to see or to think about stuff. I guess we could talk about the notes about Blake fly out. He realizes it's like, oh, they cover the time when the younger Rose replaced Molly Walker, and it's so weird. It's like it's the first time I'm seeing her face, but like she was really kind of nice to me and tried to like, let me talk about emotions and crap.
Yeah.
But she also totally sent this boogeyman to fuck with us.
Yeah, weird, huh?
I don't know what to do with that question. She has too many boogeymen, because I was like, is it Blake? Is it Corvidae? Hopefully it wasn't Corvidae. Is that why they're agreeing now? Wait, no. That'd be so bad if she sent Corvidae and now Andy and Ava are on the same page, and that's why everyone's gonna die horribly.
Why would that be her plan?
No, she's a dumbass. She doesn't understand like how Corvidae works or I feel like Corvidae just sort of like waltzed out and they dealt with him or something. Like it wasn't specifically for the witch hunters. It's just he was like, this would be funny. And this was not part of the plan.
But like, I guess why do you think Rose doesn't understand what Corvidae is?
Because she said the words like, go deal with Duncan or whatever, and he like went up and like was like, are you about to have Corvidae? Like, she didn't seem to understand that Corvidae was about to like completely ruin this woman's life in every.
Do you think she didn't understand, or do you think she just didn't give that much of a fuck until Blake said something?
Until Blake called her out? I don't know. I think that Rose was a better person when she was in the mirror, and I guess I don't have a lot of evidence for that, but I don't know. I really want to believe that she just didn't think about it, as opposed to had to pretend that she hadn't thought about it. Stop Corvée probably from doing the thing unless she didn't.
Like, it could be that she was a better person in the mirror, or it just could be that she had less opportunity to do things and less freedom.
Yeah.
I will say though, that she has been influenced by conquest. So, maybe some of that influence at Duncan's house was still kind of,
maybe. I don't know. But yeah, it is that after. Now I'm like, I don't know if this is a dumb thing I've latched onto and is not at all a thing, or if this is actually kind of a thing. But
it's gonna be like Matt's chocolate. I don't know if you remember
Corvée.
that. You know that, right?
I know that.
Okay, I figured.
Well, because it's like I think they deal with the boogeyman, and she is like more respectful or whatever, and then we're working much better together as a team, and I'm like, oh my god.
Like, oh no.
But
what kind of connections would he have moved around exactly? Because he has to take from someone else and give to someone else, right?
Or does he just like twist them or something? Like if he just like twisted the connection between Andy and Ava to make it
better?
Yeah, so that they become worse. I don't know. I think Andy and Ava agreeing.
I guess I'm also thinking, how would that help Corvidae? Because how would him like strengthening a couple of witch hunters who probably would go after him as well, like be beneficial to him?
Well, if they decide not to attend the council meeting when Andy decides to blow them all up, that would be useful. I don't know that Corvidae cares. I see him as a very rogue agent who just wants to be entertained. I guess I see him more like a fairy in that regard.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. That he does like whatever he has to do to obey Rose's letter of the law or whatever, but also just like wants to sow chaos.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess we could talk about the Mags and Molly scene.
Sure.
There's a fun beginning of like, if something happens to me in the near future, this is going to be the root of it. Great way to set up some fun tension.
Yeah.
We see Mags and Molly enter the church. We learn that Andy had visited Molly when she was just like a little echo and had considered getting rid of her, and then he hadn't. We see yet another person's perspective on Duncan, and I mean, how he kind of sucks. I don't know if that's like necessarily the read, but that's my read. That Duncan wants people to think that he's not gonna be involved, but Andy doesn't seem certain that he believes that. We see the younger chronomancer who's probably the new head of the family, which like again doesn't really make sense to me. I like maybe older people just are like, this is a shit job, I don't wanna. But I was still surprised that this seems to be what's happening. And I was wondering if Ben was the older Bahame that was present. I don't think Andy mentioned a hat, but I thought it could have been fun. Yeah, so Mags and Sandra's interaction is like kind of heartbreaking. They are kind of like, I wanted to not be against you, and now I sort of am. Although Molly said no to the familiar ritual, and that's interesting. So maybe that means that they won't end up being on opposite sides, Mags and Sandra, but Mags and Molly are still tied together, which is bad. Yeah, Duncan and Mags have some fun like bickering or whatever. She calls him Dudley Donut, which was really fun because Dudley Do-Right was a Canadian Mountie. And we're in Canada, and he's a police officer. And donuts because police officers. Just like, that was so fucking good.
That's pretty good.
It kind of sounds like Duncan. It was just
and there's Dunkin' Donuts, although I don't know if there's Dunkin' Donuts in that.
No, there probably
universe.
is.
You think so?
Oh, in that universe? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there is in Canada, but
yeah.
All who knows, they have what, Tim Hortons? Is that what it's called?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never tried it, but I've heard it's good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So they're like, okay, we need to deal with Molly, and wow, you're sort of sentient, weird. And she's like, to repay for your sins, I demand a child sacrifice from every family, and something similar from Johannes because he doesn't have children.
Like, yeah, that's real fucking reasonable.
Yeah, it was great that Mags was the one that was like, no, that they could see it's not that Mags isn't just like doing whatever Molly wants or whatever.
Yeah.
And Sandra's like, maybe I can just like banish a kid. Would that work? And she's like, do you promise? And Sandra's like, fuck no.
Do you promise? Like, man, Molly, you're such a creep. Like,
I mean, it's hard because it's obviously like a twisted wraith anger person.
Yeah, it's not real Molly, but like the wraith is a creep.
Right. But yeah, so then Andy ruminates on what really seems to be like a central theme of Pact. He thinks about how the consequences are passed on to the young, and then the young are tasked with changing the status quo, like before they're too caught up in it or whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, this was Grandma Rose's whole thing. This is Blake's whole thing. This is like seems to be what people are trying to do in a lot of this story and like totally failing to do. Like, Mags is trying to like do her own thing and live her life, and then she fucks up and she has to like tie herself into the system even more. Blake, is a boogeyman. I don't know how to talk about Blake. But I mean, like, Rose is potentially trying to do something to change the status quo or whatever, but has not given us any reason to trust her and seems to be willing to like use demons and stuff, which seems not worth it. Johannes is trying to change things. Like, there's a lot of change and youth. I guess even with like the witch hunters and computers and stuff, there's some tension.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know what Wild Bill wants to say with this. Like, Blake is not going to break the Seal of Solomon and totally redo the system.
Yeah.
And we know that because Pale exists, but that doesn't mean that this has to be a really depressing ending. But I'm also not really seeing, like, maybe the Thorburn family is somehow freed from the whole diabolism thing.
Yeah.
But that seems kind of like the best case change is possible outcome of this story. And I'm not sure if that's where we're going. Yeah. And so then back into the action away from Andy's ruminations, Eva tries to shoot Molly, but Molly's too fast, which was kind of I mean, Molly can't just fucking die like here when she has to go fuck everything up or whatever, but that was kind of surprising and makes her seem more formidable, because we have seen how Ava and Andy have been getting better, and Ava in general is really good at shooting things and whatever, and they've been leveling up kind of, and so Molly just like avoiding this like total random person trying to shoot her shows that it's not going to be easy to deal with her.
Yeah, it's like it's gonna be a pain in the butt.
Oh god, it's so funny that Molly's like, I guess I won't try to ruin your life, murderer, but everyone else, like, get fucked.
I know. Like, okay.
And it's like, I mean, it's nice that she seems to have like maybe somewhat forgiven Mags, or like acknowledged that she's really tried to atone. Acknowledge that she did. She's not actively going after Mags, which is probably mostly just because of how Mags has tried to make things better.
Yeah.
But like everyone else, like, fuck them or whatever. And yeah, so then these bells start happening, and I don't really get it. There's 13 tolls, something,
which is more than the usual tolls.
Yeah, and like, is Molly ringing the bell? Something about everything in the city is going to think it's a signal and feel it. And I'm not really sure. Like, it was a really cool sequence, but I didn't get it. And I don't remember if like there was something mentioned in like Arc 2 about the bells and how they only ring when blah blah blah. Like, I don't really know what was up with them. Do you know if I was supposed to know what was up with them? Was that like something mentioned before?
I think it's kind of hinting that it might be like Mag's like blood and darkness and doom thing that's starting.
Sure, but just like is the bell magicked to ring a whole bunch when shit's gonna go down? Like, do I know?
Like in this town? No, I
Yeah.
don't think so. I think it's just
Okay.
like trying to tell the reader like something kind of fucked up is starting to
It's
happen.
bad.
Yeah. It's bad.
Yeah, I wonder if Molly's also going to try to kill her extended family, because that'd be interesting.
Well, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so Andy's thinking about the promises he has made, and about witch hunters and how, it's witch hunters can lie, and how that, is obviously something that sets him apart in this world. And it seems like, Andy swore an oath to serve loyally in Jacob's Bell to try to keep people safe, kind of, listen to the council. But then he also has made some sort of promise to Mac that involves murdering everyone or something. I mean, probably something of like, if it goes too far, like fucking kill all the magic people. And it just is this big like bomb, holy fuck, like at the end of this chapter, because I was thinking that the that the rocket launcher was for demons. I thought that they were concerned about like the Thorburns in particular, because they have the biggest and heaviest firepower, and thinking like, well, if shit pops off, we need something to be able to combat that. But then at the end of this chapter, it's like, no, I wanted a rocket launcher so that one day I could skip the council meeting and destroy the church and everyone inside of it with a rocket launcher.
Like, just take them the fuck out.
Yeah, it's just wild. It reminds me of a TV show that we watched live for the Doof Network a couple months ago.
Oh, jeez. Fucking
Didn't
course
want
it
to
does.
spoil it, but just the image of like, a
Well,
rocket.
it's Malia's favorite show.
Heading. No, this is the animated one.
Oh, okay, this is actually probably my favorite show then. Okay. I thought you were talking about something in Legacies that I didn't remember, and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? But no, okay, yeah. You talking about Arcane?
Yeah, I was talking about Arcane. Well,
Okay,
spoilers for
makes-
Arcane.
Sorry. I mean, there's explosions and shit, so
Right.
but that's fair.
But just, the rocket launching directly at the unsuspecting meeting.
That's right. I mean, that's definitely spoiler, so fair.
Well,
okay. No, you said it. It's fine.
But yeah, it's like, would Eva also skip that meeting, or would he want to murder his sister? It wasn't entirely clear.
I mean, I don't think she would be there. I mean, if anything, they'd probably just tell a couple of them ahead of time, like, "Hey, we have to go out of town to go to Toronto."
Oh, that would be the best way to do it, because
they
I was
lie.
like, wouldn't it be sus if both of you weren't there, right? Like,
yeah, I don't think he'd be like, "Well, sorry, Eva."
Oh.
I mean, yeah, I mean, maybe Eva would. No, I don't know. I mean,
I don't know.
I feel like even though they irritate the crap out of each other, they do have a pretty strong bond,
Yeah. I mean, at one point he does think like maybe it'd be nice to go to jail, because then I could stop trying and stop protecting my sister and stop protecting people from my sister and just like stop.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what shakes him when he realizes that, and she yells at him about him not caring or trying anymore, and he starts to, come out of that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But yeah, it made me not like Andy as much, and I was sad about that. I guess
Because
all witch hunters are a little much, and like when push comes to shove, are willing to murder and destroy people to prevent really bad monsters from hurting people.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of their thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he's lived here and worked with them a lot, so he's probably, I mean, you can kind of see him talking about it in the notes, like in terms of like how the more they kind of like give in to the magic bit, the less human he feels that they get. And so he probably doesn't even, he probably doesn't see it as like murdering a bunch of like normal people or whatever. He's just like, I'm killing a bunch of monsters because they're all turning themselves into monsters.
Right.
And some of them, I mean, I mean, some of them I feel like, one in particular, I'm like, could totally use the rocket launcher treatment.
I'm like, Rose?
I'm not going to say, but
interesting. Okay.
at least, I mean, could maybe argue a couple, but there's one in particular I'm thinking that I don't remember if I don't think we've quite gone to the whole thing yet.
We don't know the whole thing. Okay.
Yeah, we've gone into a good chunk of it, but not quite the whole thing yet. I don't think.
Okay.
But.
Well, yeah, I think that's all I had to say about the chapters, unless.
Okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, it was kind of interesting to look, like, kind of an interesting change. How did you feel like this, like, matched up with the rest of the chapter? I guess did it make sense?
Like what matched up with the rest of the chapter? What do you mean?
I'm sorry, not the rest of the chapter, but the rest of the chapters in this arc. I mean, how did this chapter match up?
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of a tone shift, but we did get to see the whole Mags Molly thing, which I wanted to see a lot. I mean, thematically, I think it tied in pretty well. And, like, we started off this arc seeing how Jacob's Bell has changed, how a bunch of others and practitioners and stuff have come to town, and how the tension and everything is ramping up.
Mm-hmm.
And then we really did kind of focus in on Molly and that whole thing. And so it's good to get another reminder at the end of, like, you know, all of these others have come to town, and like there's all of this shit. And to remember, it's not just the practitioners and others you need to worry about. Like, I feel like the witch hunters have been kind of in the background, other than like that Mags chapter for a while. And even the Mags chapter, it was like, oh, cool, he like gave her a bunch of weapons. Like, that's nice. Like, weird.
Yeah.
And yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's an exciting thing propelling us, especially that last little bit with the bells and the rocket launcher and the Molly and the
yeah, definitely is an interesting place to leave. So yeah, that's the end of the arc. So let's get back into Malafide.
Woo.
So what does that mean in context of everything that we've read? And yeah, so Malafide is bad faith, essentially, in Latin, as opposed to bona fide. And acting in good faith and acting in bad faith are kind of big concepts in the law. And I was sort of trying to think about who had acted in good or bad faith throughout this arc. Part of the problem is I'm not sure, because I haven't seen the ending, like the final consequences of some of this stuff. Like, I was thinking about Faisal, and Faisal seems to have acted in good faith, right? Like, he made the agreements with Blake and lived up to them, and there don't seem to have been any sort of like traps or like whatever. It was just like straightforward and like good dealing. But like, maybe there were a bunch of traps and it's all fucked, right? Like, I'm not sure. Mags too seems to have acted in good faith through most of this. She was really just trying to atone for mistakes she had made, and also trying to be the best ambassador she could. And it just kind of came down to having to do with what she felt was the right thing, but still trying to, make it work. I don't know. Rose might have acted in bad faith. I mean, the hard thing is like she was definitely a bitch, and she definitely sucks, and she definitely trapped Blake in a mirror, and she definitely sucks, but she hadn't really like deceived Blake in any way. Like, she wasn't like, oh, Blake, like, yeah, come on in, like, hang out with us, boom, you're in a mirror. Like, there wasn't that. She didn't like make a promise in bad faith or whatever to Blake. She was kind of like, oh, fuck you the whole time, and it just consistently was shitty. Yeah.
The biggest example of bad faith action in this arc is Andy, who made a promise in bad faith to the council that he would serve them loyally and try to protect people, because he made that promise knowing that he was very willing and ready to just murder them all.
He ordered a rocket launcher just to murder them.
Samaniego being like, oh, you and your sister agree that you should have a rocket launcher. Yeah, okay, that's a good reason to send it to you. Like, in what world would Ava be like, I don't want a rocket launcher? Like, what are you talking about? Like, obviously, like, what? It's not like, what? Yeah,
they're pretty much just waiting on one mind to change at that point.
Right, and yeah, he might be concerned that she would, want to do something bad with it. But if he's ever like, oh, this might be useful, like, there's no like, oh wow, you two finally agree. It's just like, yeah, like, I don't know. That seems like a really dumb reason to be like, have a rocket launcher.
But he was able to make the argument anyway. So, yeah,
that was fun.
That's pretty funny. So where do you think this story is going from here? So, like, last we saw Blake, he got stuck by bitch McGee, and then we just saw Andy's kind of note / interlude. So, what do you think is going to be next?
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming we're going back to Blake's point of view, and it's like this is going to be a big like Mag's Blood and Darkness section, I think, with Molly running around murdering people or whatever, and everyone having to deal with that. And getting sidetracked and killing each other and whatever. Like, it seems like things are about to pop off. But also, Blake is our point of view character, and he's trapped in a mirror. So I was kind of wanting... I mean, I kind of want a scene where Blake and Rose get to, like, really talk, and we learn more about Rose's plan, and then Blake escapes. And that might be what we do, but it seems like Blake is gonna have to get out relatively quickly, or something... the story is going to have to change. Like, maybe we'd get another interlude arc or something, but Blake can't tell the story if he's trapped staring at a wall. So,
or can he? That's
maybe
the
he
real
can
twist.
like read minds.
The rest of the story is Blake just staring at the wall, just hearing shit from outside the background and being like, well, fuck.
That would be bad.
So I just thought of a question that this is kind of annoying, but I just asked, you where this is going, where you think it's going. So on the counterpoint to that, or like the opposite of that, where is this definitely not going?
Wow.
Like, it's hard because on one hand, if you can think of it, I guess it's possible, but like,
we're definitely not going to Kennet.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We're not going to Kennet. What else are we not doing? Like, in terms of the story, like, what, in terms of like, are we not going back to Toronto? Are we not going to see, Patrick? Are we not going to, I don't know, like anything that you're like, that's not going to be next? Because it'd be really funny if you said what was actually going to happen next. So,
I mean, I think there's a huge possibility we're going to go back to Toronto because of Ur and because of Conquest being like trapped and that leaking into Rose. I mean, I guess the fact that Rose is like, yeah, isn't it great, has like lessened that as a possibility, but maybe still like someone is going to need to go back and deal with that, or that's going to be how they need to go deal with Rose or something. So I could definitely see going back to Toronto as a possibility. I'm hoping we learn about the Lord claim stuff in Toronto, but I don't know.
But what are we not doing? What is not going to happen next arc? What are your like, this would be just like fucking ridiculous, or just like
the Briar girl is not gonna help Blake.
Okay. All right. The Briar girl is not going to help Blake. There you go. We heard it here.
Mara's not going to help Blake either.
Okay. The Briar girl and Mara are not going to help Blake next arc. All right. I like it.
Cool.
Okay. Okay. We kind of talked about this. I mean, the most in terms of our pale in comparison section. So easiest thing to compare is Samaniego and here and pale. We talked about it a little bit. Could also maybe talk about just like how Anne and Eva in terms of witch hunters compare to some of the other witch hunters that we've seen.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting that it's just the two of them. I don't know why they're like, they seem fairly connected with the lighthouse, but they're not also. Like, I don't know if it's just like they would have to live and work with the lighthouse, and like, why are they in this town? Why don't they work with them? Like, what's going on? Because it seemed like at some point the witch hunters, it was like they can't just live anywhere because lords don't like witch hunters, obviously, and stuff. And so there's a lot of problems with that. But if they have all these connections, I mean, there didn't seem to be a ton of antagonism or animosity or whatever between them. Though he's like, no, please don't come here. But that's just because it seems like it'd be dumb and would antagonize all the practitioners. But yeah, I mean, Samaniego's like such a huge dick to Avery, but like was really trying with Clem. It's really obvious how he hates practitioners and others and really likes Aware. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. I thought it was kind of interesting too. It's neat to see so much in Pale and then getting to come right back to this part. The timing worked out kind of well, I think, for it to be relatively close together. So, all right, Malia, give me a bold and specific prediction.
Okay, Blake is going to get out of the mirror, or like he's going to be freed in the second chapter of next arc because someone, because Faisal will save him.
Didn't you predict last time that like Tiffany would save him?
I think so.
Are you just gonna like name everybody so that you get like?
Well, maybe there'll be a little bit of a time jump. Part of me was thinking that like, you know, the gang, the cabal just left the house, and so if someone's gonna like come in and save Blake, because we got to see what shit's going down, right? So if someone's gonna come in and save Blake, it's got to happen faster, and maybe Tiffany will have been like, oh, I dropped something, I'll be right back. Yeah, well, maybe.
So you're also saying that he's going to get out of here like pretty quick. He's not going to be spending like hours or days in here or weeks or months or years.
I mean, or we're switching to an interlude arc.
So what is the time, like how long would time have to pass for it to be an interlude arc?
I mean, like if Blake isn't going to get out in the next 48 hours,
it should just go to interlude arc.
Because I want to see what the fuck is happening. I want to see Molly flying around, like, you know, like murdering people with runes. And I want to see like Rose and whoever like running around. And I don't know. I mean, Wildbow can do whatever he wants. And I am bad at predicting him. But I feel like I want to see the shit. And Blake is our vehicle.
So who's the first next interlude that you would pick?
I think I keep wanting it to be Johannes. I want to say Johannes. Like, you mean like if the next chapter is an interlude, or you mean like
if it seems whenever it's made clear that like if it's the case that Blake is going to be like stuck there for more than 48 hours, like what's the interlude after that at least that you'd want to see?
I mean, I think Duncan would be annoying, but maybe useful to remember that the Bahams exist. Or Johannes.
Okay, cool.
/ Faisal, one of them.
All right. This brings us to a listener question. Kippos was nice enough to ask us a listener question. She asks, as we've been talking a bit about some others that are hanging around in Johannes's domain, what is the type of other that you are like hella hype to see that Johannes has hanging around?
Well, I don't know that Johannes would have this hanging around. I was thinking like children's story others. Like we saw some like Alice in Wonderland-y type others, and it could be fun to see like the fucking Teletubbies or something. But I don't know that the Teletubbies would be useful to Johannes. Yeah, I was trying to be creative because I was like, yeah, I mean, fairy, goblin, lost, like we know about some others, but like, yeah, like from
his like angel,
from fun, silly stories,
familiar, like to like super powerful shit. Let's get the Teletubbies in here.
They're probably pretty powerful.
What would be the Teletubby powers?
I feel like they're like telekinetic. I've never seen the Teletubbies.
Because they have tele in the name.
Yeah. But like, you know, like astral projection and like mine laser beam shit and like move like Stephen King psychic powers.
Okay.
Is what I think the Teletubbies have.
All right. I don't know if this is going to change any opinions, but I just want to tell you what the names of the main characters are, just to see if this like gives you any kind of
the Teletubbies.
Yeah, just in case it like inspires you. So okay, I'm going to tell you the name, and then you tell me something special.
Can you tell me the color too?
I'm trying to see if these all have the fucking colors on them. Why don't they have all the color? Yeah, it should have the colors.
Because Poe's the purple one, right?
Anyway. Not according to this.
Okay,
Crap,
keep going.
What is it? Let me see. No, it should be. Yeah, no, it's not purple. Okay. First one, Tinky Winky, purple.
Oh, Tinky Winky is purple. Okay. I think
has a triangle antenna on his head.
Oh, thank you. That's also important. Is it up or down?
Fuck, I don't know. Let me.
Like, is it pointing up or is it pointing down?
Yeah, I understand the question.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were looking at a picture.
oh, I see. No, I was looking at Wikipedia. Maybe I should just look at a picture.
Triangle.
Probably a better idea. It is pointing down, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I know.
I'm imagining like that's like a focus beam kind of a thing. Like I'm imagining some sort of like light, like laser, like yeah. Tinky Winky has like a laser from their little antenna thing.
From the antenna thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Dipsy. Green antenna resembles a dipstick, which it's just like it's just a stick. It's just a straight line.
Dipsy. Yeah, I think Dipsy is telekinetic and can move things with their mind.
I feel like you said that about all of them, but we're changing it.
We're being more specific. Yeah.
Okay.
Lala.
No, it's too late. Lala. Yellow has a curly antenna.
Oh. I think Lala can like astrally project, so like they can create images of themselves or like other things and like illusions.
Okay, sweet. And Poe, red, and has an antenna shaped like a stick for blowing bubbles. So that like has a circle.
Oh, that's lovely. Bubbles.
I was trying to do rapid fire, but I feel like we're on two different wavelengths.
Sorry, I was really trying to like.
No, it's totally fine. I just think it's kind of funny because I was like trying to be like, go, and you're like, let's think about this. That's fine.
I think like a like sensory. I mean, everything's sensory, but like it can make you feel like things are there or aren't there, and can make you like hear things.
Okay. I want to know. Anyone who's watched the Teletubbies growing up, how accurate do those seem to you?
Well, what about the baby sun face? The baby sun face is like
baby sun face. I mean, I'm assuming like heat powers or like sunshiny powers.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It sees all.
Well, Kippos, I bet you didn't expect to hear that. So, Teletubby others. All right. Last week's discussion question was, if you were in Blake's position and could have one book or non-reflective item, what would you choose? And we'll start with expensive ad 8633 that says that they would go for a really thick RPG book, something with adventure modules in the back, and that way they could keep themselves entertained and actually also have an inspiration on how to get out, which is pretty smart, actually.
Hobo Demon says they would like either a stick or a yo-yo, which cool. So Blake needs to get good with the hyena, and the safest way to train that sort of thing would be to do training with a stick. And they talk about ratons in Filipino martial arts, and how they're really good for training. But the yo-yo could be another useful coordination skill to get good at, and could cause a lot of chaos, but like seem innocuous.
True. Flea Feathers just says a printout of the collected works of Wildbow, which that's actually pretty smart too, and that would give you a lot to read, especially if that's including
if could read what would happen and then change it.
I mean, that's true. I think that they're thinking more of like if you were in the position of Blake and that you were like held prisoner, not like if you could hand Blake anything, you could give him the works of his book, but at least that's how I took the question that we asked.
Sure.
But I was just saying that I think that would be a lot, especially if you include like packed dice and weaver dice.
Oh yeah,
and all that. Like that's a lot of stuff to read.
Maisie 1 wants to print out all of Wikipedia and bring all of that in there, or just some sort of encyclopedia. Or they say that they'd like to cheat like we did and say an iPod shuffle with a bunch of audiobooks.
It is so not cheating. But an iPod shuffle might have a reflective surface, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows, it might be okay, but
yeah, they say they bounce around hobbies and pastimes so much that it's hard to think of something where it being the only thing in their life for more than 3 days doesn't like make them want to explode. And solitary confinement is bad. And you're right, it is very bad.
It is bad.
It's torture. But maybe if their jailer is within speaking distance, a book that collects bad jokes or annoying songs would be fun, because at least they could go out swinging.
Also depends on your sense of humor, because if you like bad jokes like me, like bad puns, then like you will get some enjoyment out of that. And then you can get some enjoyment out of like the other person getting really fucking annoyed at you.
Yeah. Or maybe the other person would also like it and you can become friends and they let you out.
That's true. And then they let you out. There you go.
Win-win.
Oh, I've got it, you guys. You should just get that book, How to Make Friends and Influence People.
Oh my God.
There you go. And then you just just be like BFFs with like your captors and be like, see guys, there you go. All right. Just to ask, what do you think about this discussion question, Malia?
I don't understand the question.
You don't understand? Okay. I'm trying to ask edible nuts or non-edible nuts. I was going to say edible nuts or hardware nuts, but there's like so many types of like other nuts out there. That's it. Do you choose edible nuts or non-edible nuts?
Okay.
And elaborate.
This reminds me of...
I don't get what there is to like, I don't understand what's confusing about it.
It reminds me of a short story by Patricia C. Reedy in Book of Enchantments. Rikiki and the Wizard. It's like one of my favorite stories of all time. Nuts?
I was not channeling that, but sure.
Yeah.
See, we know what he would pick, right?
He would pick edible nuts.
Edible nuts. Yeah.
Yep.
You can tell me what kind of edible nuts. I was trying to go like pecan or that type of thing, but I did just say, I did say edible. So any kind of edible nuts or any kind of non-edible nuts. Which one do you want to choose and why?
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Unless you have an edible nut or a non-edible nut you'd like to pick, Malia.
No, I have to think about it.
Okay, we'll get back to you on that. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe, share it with your friends, and leave a rating and review. To help support our podcast, go to patreon.com/doofmedia. And if you'd like to support Wildbow as he continues to write fantastic stories, go to patreon.com/wildbow.
You can follow the pod on Twitter @PaleComparison, or send us an email at paleincomparisonpod@gmail.com. Keep an eye out for our Reddit thread in r/parahumans, where you can answer our discussion question and share your thoughts on this episode. In addition, if you would like to see all of my predictions laid out, check out our episode description for a link to a prediction tracker. Next episode, we will be covering chapters 11.1 and 11.2.
Woo!
Cool.
All right. This fun fact, I didn't know. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of y'all know it, but I'm going to share it anyway. The original comic book Superman could leap tall buildings in a single bound, but he couldn't fly. It wasn't until the 1940s when animators for a new animated series decided it would be too difficult to draw him bending his knees over and over again. And they decided that he could fly.
That's amazing.
Right?
It's like, oh, fuck this.
Yeah, like, screw that. That's going to be so annoying. He's going to just fly. Like, I do remember, like, people saying, could leap tall buildings in a single bound, but I just figured, like, I don't know, they're saying that he flies.
I mean, that's still cool, even if, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's still super cool. I mean, I almost would say that's almost cooler just because I feel like flying so cliche. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather fly if I had to choose.
I mean, yeah.
You know, but still.
I feel like whenever you would have to get knee surgery a lot, if that would just like totally fuck up your knees having to jump.
I mean, it's Superman. Like, he's pretty much invulnerable, right?
Well, eventually or whatever. Like, they keep adding powers or something.
And maybe.
We have to ask Scott. Scott has
to ask Scott. I mean, I personally think he'd be fine. Unless, like, there was some weird kryptonite stuff. But I don't know.
Sure.
All right. Have a good one.
Well, wait, no.
Oh, okay. We're not done. Go for it.
Sorry. In honor of our 50th episode, and because Scott and Matt do this, and then people actually leave them reviews.
I forgot about this, even though Malia told me like 5 times. Sorry.
We want to read the very first review we ever got. I scoured some random websites, Apple Podcasts and Spotify and things. And it seems like our first review ever was from podchaser.com. And Jay, do you want to read it, or do you want me to read it?
You can read it.
So Robin Song on March 30th, 2021 gave us 5 stars and said, while this podcast is niche, I fall squarely in that niche. The energy and banter of the hosts is amazing. Their insights are entertaining and fascinating. My only complaint is that there is only 1 episode. I need more of the joyous laughter that I got from this amazing debut.
That's so sweet.
It's so sweet.
Thank you, Robin Song.
I hope you've stuck with us this long and that we have not let you down.
Yes, I hope.
And yeah,
hopefully we're still as entertaining as when we started. If not, we definitely welcome constructive feedback.
Totally.
Not mean feedback, because then that's just mean, but like anything constructive. We always want to make this a fun listening experience. So if I do too many callbacks to how we're quirky and unorganized and that's too annoying, feel free to let me know. Or if we need to be a little bit more prepared on certain things, feel free to let us know. You know, we're kind of self-aware, but if that becomes a problem for listening, please educate us.
Yeah, we want to be a good podcast.
Yeah, we want to be a good podcast, and we want to be fun to listen to.
We also want other people to learn about Pale and Pact and all the cool fun things at our podcast. So if you leave a review, I'm going to try and remember to look up reviews and maybe read them at the end of episodes. There's like 2 or 3 more that I have. But yeah.
Yes.
This is to bribe y'all or something.
Should we read
and fortune?
A couple more now, or should we wait?
I feel like we should spread them out.
All right, we're going to spread them out. But yeah, feel free to leave us a review. So far on Apple Podcasts, looks like we have 5 ratings. 4.6 stars out of 5. Someone gave us a 3-star, but they didn't tell us why. So maybe we just weren't for them. But I'm just like, why? I want to know. But I'm glad most of y'all are enjoying it, as far as I can tell. At least a couple of you.
Yeah.
So,
and reminder, if you're a patron, vote. And if you're not a patron, be a patron or leave us a review. Yeah. I mean, in all seriousness, we know financially things are hard. And so we're not going to you don't have to send money if you can't. But we would appreciate a review and keep on listening. Yay.
All right. Have a good one, guys. Have a good week. And we will continue talking next week.
If you're listening to this, pray for me because I'm taking the bar.
She's taking the bar. She's taking the fucking bar on
possibly
Tuesday.
Literally, as you're listening to this, I am suffering. So
yeah, because this comes out on the day that you take the bar. Actually, so and then Malia's taking the bar right now,
and then I also take the bar the next day. So if you're listening to this on Wednesday, I am taking the bar.
Yeah, Malia's taking the fucking bar, and her life sucks right now. It's gonna be fine. She's doing great. She's answering all those questions fantastically. I don't know how the format is of this test at all, but she's doing great. But she just needs a little bit of cheering on. So yeah.
Anyway, on that note, bye.
Bye.